There should be more joining us. I'm Carole Edmondson, and I am a volunteer host with Kaushalya UK, which is a not-for-profit community organisation. The CEO and founder is Ritu Sharma, a women empowerment ambassador. She is also a published author, best-selling published author. She's also a producer, an actor. Well, she has a production company, an actor, and an entrepreneur. Now, she started Kaushalya UK. Kaushalya is the name of her paternal grandmother, and Kaushalya UK was started originally as a women's platform, not just to help those who are in dire straits, but also to empower women in personal and professional growth. So some of the projects and events that we run include financial entrepreneurship, and also workshops. There's another volunteer, Zina Kumar, who actually runs workshops and coordinates the workshops. So if anyone would like to do an hour's, 45-minute to an hour's workshop, I can link you up with Zina. So the unique, as I mentioned, objective of Kaushalya UK was not just to support those in dire need, and also social events and face-to-face events. I also host, besides the 2 online events, Women Empowerment and Men Are From Mars, I also host 2 face-to-face events in our local area in Warsaw, twice a month. And social events, they're always coming up. Sadly, the majority are this end of the UK, which is in the West Midlands. What else can I say? We have a media presence as well, Kaushalya UK website and YouTube channel, where the recording of this will be uploaded to the YouTube channel at some point. Bear with me. At some point. Now, before we actually get going, just to say that our first speaker, because it's quite late in India where she's joining us from, once she has spoken, I will, as an exception, open up the floor for any questions you may have for her. Following her talk, we will go to speakers 2, 3, and 4, and then open up for Q&A. So do bear with us, make a note of any questions that you may have. I will try to monitor the chat and ask it yourself, stick your virtual hand up, or just unmute and ask your questions. And welcome, Caroline. Thank you for joining us. And I was just to say, but everybody's on mute. Right. So now everybody's on mute, we can start. And our first speaker of this evening, I'm delighted to introduce you to Kaushalya, joining us from India. She is a brand expert, but a bit more about Kaushalya. By the way, it's 11:30 p.m. at night, so she's way ahead of us in the UK and in Spain. So, Kaushalya is a confidence coach and brand expert for the bespoke designs. Her superpower is to make women's brands look glamorous and classy and stand out online so that they can continue to expand in their power, their passion, and prosperity, and show up as the goddess they are. I love the sound of that. So I open the floor to you, Kaushalya.
Thank you. I think I just got muted. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
So thank you so much, Carole, for the warm welcome. And thank you so much for making me a part of this amazing, platform. I feel so honored to be here today, even though it's late in night, but I think it's really worth it that I'm able to meet and connect with people across the globe. So I'm really delighted and excited to be here tonight, because it's late here in India. So just to share, a little more about me, my background, and where do I come from, and what is it that entails in my journey and my story. So I am basically a single mom, and I started my journey way back in 9 years back in the online world. And before that, I was working like just another corporate woman in a 9 to 5 job, and it was a dream job. I really enjoyed it. I was working in a multinational organization by the name of Max New York Life. So it was an insurance company. So I was there as a trainer. And I really, really enjoyed working there for almost, I think, 8 years before I left that company. So experience is something that I really gained while I was at my job. And a couple of things I think I was able to also know about is that you should always be in learning mode. So I think learning is part of our journey, learning is part of our life. And that is something I also continued to do while I was in my job. And so I used to keep enhancing my skills. And one of the skills or one of the new things that came back then was coaching. So I also became a certified life coach while I was still working. And it somehow happened because that's the time where I was going through a personal transformation because of my separation from my ex husband back then. So I think I was looking for some answers, and I was in that situation where my job was really great. It was fabulous. I had a 4-month-old son with whom I walked out of my marriage, but I really didn't know what I wanted out of life anymore. So I had a good financial stability, but personally, emotionally, I was quite restless. I was overwhelmed. I was in a very different state of mind, and I wasn't even sure who I am really. So I think that's when coaching struck, and that's how, it struck first my own life. It helped me to create that transformation. It helped me to find some answers for my own self, for my own life, and for, what I really wanted to do. And that didn't even happen overnight because honestly, I first had to go through the entire certification, and then I had to practice those many coaching hours so that I could actually formally be called like a life coach. And while I was doing it, one of the things which came out very strongly was that I wanted to be at home and I didn't want to do my job anymore. So that was like, so one of the big decisions I took was walking out of my marriage because I had an abusive husband. But the second big decision was moving out of my job. And that was a dream job, like I said, and not something that, anybody would feel, like I used to look forward to it every day when I used to wake up. But somehow there was this epiphany, or there was this light bulb moment which happened and which made me decide that I want to be home with my son 24/7. And to be able to do that, I will have to leave this dream job because I'm a single parent now. So I don't want to be, depending on my parents to support us. So they can probably give him, security while, because we are living together in a traditional setup, but he still needs one parent. So that's like another big shift which took place in my life. And I decided that I'm going to try and do something on my own. And I discussed about this with my family, my father and my mom, and they were like, "Why do you need to leave? You're doing well and everything's going great." And we're taking care of him. And I'm like, "Great, thank you. I'm so grateful that I have your support and everything's working fine. But I don't want to be in a situation where everything is not working fine. And that time I will have to leave my job or I will have to look for other means." So because everything is working fine, I think I want to take that leap of faith. I want to take that risk now so that I know that the future is, taken care of. And as much as they were not in favor of that decision, obviously, because they're parents and they're kind of concerned. So I understand that. I still took that leap of faith and I moved out and I started with one of my ex bosses as in a partnership. So we worked in training consultancy. So we were doing freelance training workshops for different organizations. And I did that for about a year. But again, I think that the universe was, giving me different kind of signs where, this partnership did not really work too well because I still felt like I was not a partner, but maybe still an employee because he was my boss. So he still felt like he could be the boss. So I decided that this is not something which can again continue for very long. So we parted ways, and then I was all on my own. And that's when I decided that what should I do now? So I continued doing trainings, but on my own independently. And then slowly, gradually, I started exploring, I started researching, and that's when I found out about the online space. And back then, Facebook was the most upcoming platform thanks to Mark Zuckerberg. And I think we were all taking that plunge and we were all trying to find out ways of, how we can use that platform, not just for fun and not just for games and activities and entertainment, but also to see how we can monetize, how we can create businesses. And I think since then till now, there hasn't been, any looking back. I've come a long way. Like I said, it's been 9 whole years, and it's been like a roller coaster ride. It's been a journey where I had a lot of bumps. I went through a lot of hits, and I went through more misses than hits. But when I look back, I feel that that decision made me do one thing, which is raise a good human being, which is my son. He's now 13 years old. He's a teenager, and I love every single moment that I have given, in terms of my time, in terms of my presence. So, so I feel that this journey has been beautiful, and while I have been on this journey, like I said, I had to even shift my passion from coaching and bring it to branding because initially it was a struggle. So that's like the phase two. So you decide you want to do something, and then the real shit happens where how do you do it, and how do you make sure that it's sustainable and you start getting income and you're able to make money and something which your parents are like, oh, okay, that's a good decision that you left your job. So it was something where it was obviously initially there were years where I didn't know what I was doing. I hired other coaches, business coaches. I went through courses, and like I said, I used to take one step forward, 2 steps back, again 1 step forward, and again 2 steps back. So life was crazy, and but but honestly, not a single moment did I feel that I want to quit because my purpose, my why, was to be home and stay 24/7, present for my child. So, which means I knew that I had to figure out some other thing which I'm good at, some other passion which I can still continue to use in the online space. And that's when branding happened because I used to design a lot of training course materials in my job. So I did have an idea about how to create content, about how to design, some idea about color choices. So I used that like as a base, and then I started learning more about it. I read books around it. I again hired coaches and experts in branding so that I could upskill myself, and I could make sure that when I am ready to offer it as a formal service, people would be accepting, and they would definitely want to give it a shot. So I started with free work for a few coaches because by then I did have a coaching community to myself. And then once, from free work, slowly and gradually, I started getting paid work. I started making packages. And then I also introduced the coaching element. So that's where the confidence coaching part comes in because what I'm doing now is helping so many other women across the globe to build their business, which means to gain that confidence to share their story, and to let people know about their unique services, and doing this using the help of visuals, using the help of branding, because at the end of the day, online platforms require some kind of tangible thing to show what your expertise really is. And that's where branding comes in. And not only that, I started doing it for even product based businesses. So I'm kind of enjoying those challenges, because people need help. People are struggling with, so they've got their own expertise, right? So they're struggling with, how do I go and show up, and what do I post there? And oh my God, designing is so scary, and I don't know what colors to choose. Or today I like this color, but tomorrow my favorite color is changed. So they need that kind of guidance. They need that kind of consistency for their business, because otherwise you are losing out on trust and authenticity. And having a solid brand is something which helps to create that authenticity, create that authority, and obviously create that kind of a memory which you leave behind, because even when you're not there, your brand becomes your face. So people are able to recognize you through your brand, through the visuals, through various platforms where you are showcasing your products or services. So I feel this is very, very crucial, and I'm so blessed that in all these years I've been able to help so many of my clients who've been coaches, who've been seven-figure coaches, who've been best-selling authors, who've been doing really amazing work across the globe. So another thing which I also had, promised myself was that I'm not going to have a single client based in India. They're all going to be outside India. And I made sure that I kept that goal, and that's how it's always been. I've till date, I don't have an Indian client. They might be based out of India, but they're not based in India. They might be Indians who are residing in the US or in the UK, but so their base is purely international. And I love this because this also helps me to connect with so many people, know more about their cultures, have that kind of like-minded thoughts to share and support them. Because at the end of the day, I think we as women need other women to uplift, to empower, and to inspire each other. And I think we're all doing it through our own individual experiences, through our own stories, and through our journey that we are all going through as we even speak right now. So I have a feeling that if we can do our little bit by sharing it with each other, somewhere in some part, some corner of the globe, somebody might be listening to that story, either in the form of a book or a podcast or interviews like this. And that will help them to take that next step, because maybe something is holding them back, something is keeping them stuck. So all they really need is that other woman who's probably going through that same kind of experience. And once you know about it, I think you are ready to take, a next step. And it's always about the next step, really, because you can't really think so far ahead about where my life is going to be and what's going to happen. You can have an aim, you can have ambitions, but eventually it's always going to be about the next step. So I believe that I'm trying to do my bit by, sharing my journey. And I think I'm honored to be able to be a part of other women's journey through the services that I'm providing and helping them so that they can, share the message with their unique gifts, with their unique talents, and, bring change and bring transformation and inspire other women. So this is in a nutshell about me, really. And yeah, I think that's all that there is really about me. Oh, Carol, you're muted.
Yes, now I'm off mute. I just went, oh, I'm on mute. Hey, Kusha, I am so, we are so blessed, despite the time difference, that you said yes. to actually speak on the platform. And as you finished a little bit earlier anyway, I'm just going to open up the floor because, as I mentioned when we started, it's gone past 11:30, heading towards midnight in India right now. So Kusha is going to have to leave once we've done any Q&A for her. But I'd like to kick off by saying, what a brave woman you are to actually take that step. Leaving your husband, did it bring shame to the family, or was your family supportive?
They were highly supportive. No shame, none whatsoever.
Awesome.
My family, my relatives, my friends, all of them.
Excellent.
They all knew that this was the right decision.
Brilliant. And then having gone through that turmoil, then setting up and wanting to, having the vision to start your own business, obviously there were steps that you had to take before that. And I am just so made up for you to see how successful you are now. And also, you would think setting up, just starting, that comfort zone in going to your own people in India. But no, take it global. And that must have been a really brave and scary step at the same time.
Well, so actually, I want to share this here that when I started back then, even in India, people were not very support. I don't want to say supportive, but they didn't understand what a coaching concept is.
Right.
So, what does it even really mean? And are you talking therapy, or am I crazy? Do I have I gone insane that I need to go through coaching? So sometimes I used to feel that it's so much more harder to create your value where people don't really know what value is there, in getting this done. So as much as you go and try and convince them about the outcome or the results, if they still don't find value about it, so it's best not to break your head, in those terms and waste your time and money and effort and everything. Versus, and this was basically in majority part of India, except for a couple of cities like some metro cities, there people know what coaching is. But other than that, majority people had no idea about what coaching really entails and what it could bring to them. So that's why I said that it was initially even a struggle for me to go out there and talk about it and, figure out why it's important and how it can change or how it can bring transformation. So I decided, if that's the case, let's come back here when people really do understand what it is. And until then, let's go and figure out where is it that people know the real value of it. And then how can I, blend in, and how can I showcase my skills? So yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Awesome. The floor is now open to anyone who'd like to ask a question. Or comment. Don't be shy.
I want to say, yes, just to reiterate what Carole said about that level of bravery. But what was really powerful just listening to you is that you knew who you were and you knew the value that you were bringing to the table. And even though you weren't clear necessarily about where to go or where to put my foot, you were clear about that. And I firmly believe that that underpins everything. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Most welcome. I'm so glad to be able to do that.
Yeah, and also, Kusha, lovely to meet you. I was also thinking similarly when you were speaking, and thinking about your stories, like the story of the women that I coach, in that, we do really well and we go ahead and we blaze our trail and we're riding high, and then something happens. And it might be life, it could be, family, it could be a whole range of things. And actually, sometimes the decision to make the change is almost like the biggest hurdle, isn't it? It's almost that is where the pressure is. It's once you've made the decision, kind of doing it is not as hard as the decision itself. And so I absolutely agree with Carole, and that's where the bravery is. The bravery is in the decision. although
Yes.
often people think that the bravery is in actually what you do, the actions, etc. But it actually is certainly the decision.
Yes, and thank you for sharing this. This is very valid because when you have a strong, so decisions don't have to be done hastily. So if you're really sure about what you're choosing, then you won't even give up on any, at the sign of a setback or at the sign of failure, because you really have chosen that path. So whatever might come, you're not going to go back. You're not going to quit. You're not going to give up. So, and I think I even talk about this with my clients when we do the branding with them, because what we're talking about is, about their business. So why did you start your business, or why do you want to be that coach, for that specific niche that you're in, or whatever that expertise is? Because they have to have a strong why. They have to have a strong reason. Why did they choose themselves to become a happiness coach or a gratitude coach or a coach in any field? So that it has to be linked with something that you're emotionally attached to. So I had that emotional reason behind whatever I chose for myself. And I think eventually, if you have a strong emotional why, you don't quit. You will continue to fight it out. You will continue to figure out ways. You might take a detour. You might change directions, but your goal at the end is clear, that this is the reason why I started. So I'm going to continue because this reason is very, very important for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, one of the key messages there that I often, share with people that I work with is the idea that it is actually up and down on the way up, that it's not just one linear movement in one direction, that actually it's up and down. So
absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
What would life be if we didn't have that, isn't it? That's the lifeline.
Riding the roller coaster.
It's all
That's
about
what
ups
we do.
and
We
downs.
ride the roller coaster.
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, you're in hospital and you're on a heart monitor, it goes up and down. If it flatlines, you're dead, and everything goes up and down. So when you leave hospital and life goes up and down, congratulations, you're alive.
Nice.
Yes, absolutely,
I love
Carole.
that.
Yeah,
I love that.
as an ex-nurse, I concur with that.
Oh, Naresh, your hand is up. Hang on. Yes, Naresh.
Hello.
Hi, sweetheart.
I just heard the last bit of your interview. I'm sorry, I was a bit late joining in. I just like the way you said that your family supported you, and you had a good backup of your family, and that means a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I mean, some people
think-
don't get the backup
Yes.
at all.
That's another huge one, because some people are not able to take that brave decision because they lack support, because they are still not, independent to choose, and because there is this fear that how are we going to survive once we move out.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, all these things were, a big green flag. Like, it was checked because I was financially secure. I had a great job. My parents said, you don't even have to live on your own. You can come back and stay with us. So I didn't have to go out looking for a home for myself. And of course, that's the main thing, is having that emotional security. More than me, it was more for my son, because it's in a way saying you've lost a parent, but there's a different perspective that you lost a father, but you gained 5 other people, because I have my I have my parents, I have my brother, I have his wife, we all stay together. So you lose one, but you gained 4 more people who love you, who nurture you, and who want to see you growing happily. Whereas that one person you lost was somebody who was abusive, and that's not really the kind of value I would want to raise my son with. So that was clear. So it was clear in my head. It was clear because my upbringing was like that. So definitely having that support is a blessing. And you're right, not many people have that even today. So sometimes when I see people are still there in unhappy marriages, I feel I wish I can earn so much money, like so much, that I'm able to create a space where they don't have to even think twice. They can just walk out of that marriage and they know they are safe. They'll be fed. They can, make something out of themselves. They can start from scratch and they can relive or have like a rebirth, like as a new person, as a new woman. So definitely, this is like a very big dream somewhere in the corner of my heart, which I wish that while I am still here on planet Earth, I will be able to achieve that sometime
I'm
down
sure
the
you
line.
will. I'm
Yeah.
sure you will, because
And
you're
Thank
very
you.
bright and positive person.
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah,
And that
yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Most welcome.
reminds me, Ritu, CEO and founder of Kaushalya UK, she is actually setting up a charity to help women and children who are going through domestic violence. She's looking for a property that they could be it could be their refuge. So she's in the throes of doing that right now, because she herself, you may know, Kusha, has come from that background. So yes, wonderful. Thank you so much for giving up your evening to be with us. And we
You're
have
welcome. I just loved it.
benefited from your share. Seriously, we really have. And now I am going to, now who am I removing the spotlight from? Now I am going to introduce you to our next speaker, who is, bear with me. Okay, our next speaker, I will remove your spotlight, Kusha. Just got to find you again. Right, so our next speaker, let me spotlight Georgia. And
I will take leave now, and
yes.
I've left all the links for my social media so that we can stay connected. And thank you so much, Carole, once again.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye. Right. So, beautiful. Now it's time for me to actually introduce you to our next speaker, Georgia Varga, joining us from Espanol, from Spain. Georgia Varga is a 4 times published author, book writing coach, and speaker. Her edge comes from many years in the showbiz world as a producer, playwright, and musician, bringing an eclectic mix to her speaking and coaching. She talks about the qualities of authority, which is having the confidence to ask for what you want, tenacity, being consistent with courage and sticking it out, creativity, to keep going when the going gets tough, and by leaning on your genius, imagination. She brings an entertaining aspect to her work, but she is also wise and knowledgeable. And I yield, great pleasure, Georgia, yielding the floor to you right now.
Thank you so much, Carole. I love that word, yield. Beautiful word. Thank you so much, Carole. I think we booked this in February or March, and I thought, oh, that's so far away. And here it is. It's moved so fast. And it's such a great pleasure to be amongst such prestigious women and their wonderful stories. And I'm really looking forward to listening to Carole later, and Professor Laura speaking and sharing their wisdom and their knowledge with us, because this is what empowering women is all about. It's sharing our knowledge and wisdom, and we have so much to give each other now that we've got these platforms. So my motto is, our voice and our pen are our 2 most powerful tools of communication. And I've learned they are our most profitable as well, if we recognize it. And the thing is that we women are really good at talking. We really know how to speak to each other. We know how to guide each other, to give advice, to share each other. We are resilient. We have an instinct for survival that is just extraordinary. I mean, you look at the animal kingdom. There are so many matriarchs within the animal kingdom that why we need to big that up in ourselves as well, because we have those abilities too. We are capable of stepping up, of standing out, of being resilient, consistent, persistent, resistant, insistent. We have these amazing qualities. And yet, we are inundated with what's wrong with us. We fill our heads with, I've got this syndrome, I've got this limiting belief. You know, as a book writing coach, the number of women that come to me and say, I can't really write a book. I've got imposter syndrome. I've got FOMO. I've got emo and BMO, and I don't even know these English abbreviations anymore, but we've got so many of them. And I just say, well, this is self-sabotage. Is this really who you are? And then I looked it up. They're not my favorites. Psychiatrists have created more than 300 new mental issues over the last 50 or 60 years. No wonder we are inundated with what's wrong, why we're no good. And why is it that women take this on board so much? So I wanted to look into this. And I wanted to find a simple, practical solution. I quite like simple, practical ways round things. I don't like complicated ideas. And I found that there were these three really big words that influenced me: confidence, courage, and creativity. The confidence to ask for what you want, the courage to get up and do it, and the creativity to keep going when the going gets tough. And as we know, the going gets tough. Things happen. We women have understood what it's like to be belittled, mansplained, these are the modern words, aren't they? Oppressed, suppressed, silenced. There are still so many countries in this world where women are silenced. We don't learn to read or write. The literacy levels are still very high in many parts of the world. Why is that? Why have women have been oppressed and suppressed so much? Why do we allow that confidence, that courage, that creativity to hold us back when we can do so much with it? So I wrote about this and spoke about it quite a lot in this book here, The Rule Breaker's Guide, The Manifesto for Rebels. And I came up with this idea that it's basically the three little C's that hold us back: cooking, cleaning, and caring. Now, I'm not talking about the love of cooking that we do, or the cleanliness that is a little bit of a therapy thing for us, or the caring which we do from the heart. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the obligations and the duties. The number of women who say to me, I didn't write my chapter because I had to hang the washing up. I had to go shopping. I had to cook the dinner for the family that surprised me. I had to do this, this, and this. I have 2 male clients at the moment writing their book, and they have never said they had to go and hang the washing up. They have never said they had to go and cook a meal for everybody else. And yet we feel so obliged and duty-bound to do this. Now, there is a fine line there. I know that we do it from love, and we do it because, well, we do it from love. But there is that area where we use it to stop ourselves from doing the very things that we want to do, that we're capable of doing. And that's the area that we all need to sort of work on, to understand. And one of the ways to do that, I've got a few ideas here. One of the ways to do that is to ask ourselves on a regular basis, what is it that we want? What do we really want? Write that down. Maybe at the end of the day, write it down again. And tomorrow, Go and expand on that. What is it that you really, really want? What is it that you would love to do, that you could do? If this and this and this was together, if the washing was all done and the cooking was all finished, what is it that you would really, really like to do? And in a week, look at that again and see how that list has grown. See how you've crossed out things and changed things and realize that really, really what you want to do is something else. And when you get to that point, maybe you'll start talking about it and sharing it, videoing it, and telling people that. Maybe you'll make a speech out of it, write a book, a script, a play. There's so many things that you will see that you can do with that. But we all play these, what I call the confidence games. We get into the confidence games, don't we? The confidence games that we play against ourselves. I'm no good, I'm not good enough. I'm always this, I'm that. The syndromes, the limiting beliefs, the confidence games we play on ourselves. The confidence games that other people play on us that we allow to infiltrate our mindsets. The confidence games that society plays upon us. The brainwashing, the programming, the censorship, the restrictions, the holdbacks, all these things that we've all experienced. The glass ceiling, the bamboo floor, the belittling, the holding back, especially with women, that has stopped us doing things. And how do we clear all that? How do we get through all those things? It takes confidence to ask for what you want, courage to get up and do it, and the creativity to keep going. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background. When I was a teenager, I had this idea to write because I was one of the privileged ones that learned how to write. And I had this idea that there were these two characters, love and hate, drama and conflict, resolution, love, hate, drama, conflict. Isn't that what all our lives are about? The films, the books, drama, conflict, love, hate. Most films end on one of those. That's what life is all about. And I got fascinated with these mini monologues that I was writing, these tiny little dialogues, and it got me into playwriting. It was a wonderful way that allowed other people to put in the emotions and the passions and the dramas. So exciting for me. And I put on quite a few plays. When I was living in London, I put on quite a few plays on, when you call it the Fringe Theatre. But my main background was in music. I was an instrumentalist. I played saxophone for many years. And I was traveling with lots of different bands. And it was very tough. It was really, really tough as a female instrumentalist. And I always have this story about when I was traveling. It was always me and 9 men in a van going around Europe. And I was determined I was going to write a book about it. Me and 9 men in a van, but of course it wasn't the kind of book I wanted to write at the time. But it taught me, it made me very tough, because you had to be really tough on the outside to deal with these so difficult situations of ego and competition and the lack of companionship that sometimes happens when you work with a lot of men. People in corporate might have that experience too, although I know that corporate there's a lot of women in corporate. So after one of these very heavy periods of working and traveling in the music business, I decided to run off and catch some winter sun, and I booked 6-7 weeks away to relax. And I didn't take my instrument with me, which was very unusual, but there was a blessing in that because it got me writing. Within a few days, I was feeling very restless, so I started writing. And I wrote poetry, prose, spoken word, drama in a sort of prose kind of shape form. And I felt very satisfied with that. You know, I had quite a pile of papers. When I went back to London, I went to Ronnie Scott's, which was my favorite place at that time for listening to music. But that night, there was no music on. There was a spoken word artist, a young man who was doing a 20-minute performance piece, and he captivated the audience. They were at the edge of their seat. His piece was just phenomenal, amazing. And I thought, oh, I've got to do this as well. I've got my pile of poems. I could do this. I could do this. And I was very naive. I learned my lesson. And they were dreadful pieces. They were not at all suitable for the audiences, because at that time, London was packed with spoken word performance clubs, scenes, whatever. I was going to about 9 or 10 of them a week, and then weekend there was another 9 or 10. I was just running around. And I learned the hard way. I'm a kind of learn as you go girl. So I learned the hard way. I was booed off the stage, and terrible. It was terrible. It was tough, you know, and I learned to handle it somehow. I learned to handle the hecklers. What an experience that is. But what I realized as I progressed and learned and recognized what was the way to do it, if you like, was that women were not very popular anyway on stage. But nevertheless, what I recognized was that the people who were getting the headline gigs, the people who were getting the paid jobs, the people who were getting the recognition, all had a book. It was printed proof of who they were. Ha! So I thought, right, I'm going to do the same. And it took me a bit of time, you know, a bit of learning, a bit of practice, a little bit more booing and all that kind of thing that I had to experience. And I wrote my book, that one there, Words on the Wild Side. And they were wild words of what it was like to be out there on the stage, performing, sharing what life is like as a woman. All those ups and downs that we go through, the strength and the courage, the resilience that we need to be able to be who we want to be. And I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be a performance artist. And I worked hard at it. I got booed a few more times, of course. But when I got my book, I got a little bit more recognition. And that's what it taught me. Printed proof. Printed proof, indeed. A very powerful thing. So it gives me great pleasure to work with women who have these amazing stories and shaping them and designing them so that they come out and they resonate with their audience. They last and they sell, because we want it to be profitable. We want that recognition. We want the success. But oh boy, we want that revenue too. We want our rewards. And why shouldn't women get their rewards, their financial rewards, so they can be independent? So they can live the life they want, and they can say, leave me alone with your games. I'm going to live the life I want. And the fact of the matter is, we need money. And so it is dare to ask for it. So we are living in a very competitive age. And, you know, it is a lot of masculine energy. It's not just men. Women too have that. I've been that way too, you know, aggressive instead of assertive. We all know that, we women. There's borderline sometimes. But it's time to move into collaboration and connection. It's time for us to recognize that when we work as a team, when we collaborate and connect, so much more happens. We have so much to share and so much to give to each other through our voice and our pen, our two most powerful tools of connection. And I'd like to leave you with this little story. And it's about a pufferfish. And when a pufferfish is born, it's the size of your nail. It's very, very tiny. You need amazing technology to see it. It lives on the Great Barrier Reef on the coast of Queensland. And this little fishy, the pufferfish, it's called the long-nosed pufferfish. It grows in 2 years to the length of your thumb. It's very tiny, right? So it's food for the hungry predators. But it has two amazing methods of dealing with all the hungry predators around it. It wears two colors, yellow and black, which are the colors of poison in the world of nature. So when a hungry predator sees that, they go, ooh, nope, yellow and black, oh, can't eat that. But the other thing that happens is that some of those predators, they don't care about it and they just swallow you. And the pufferfish has this amazing ability to blow itself up to 10 times its size. And then the predator fish will just go and shoot it out of its mouth because it's starting to taste the poison and the size of it is too much. So what this little fish has is the ability to go across a signal that says, if you eat me, you'll regret it. And I think some of us women could learn a lot from that little pufferfish. Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful, Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love it, love it, love it. Please hold your questions till now we go back to the regular format, till all the speakers have spoken, but make a note of the questions that you'd like to ask Georgia when we open up the floor. But that's lovely. Absolutely brilliant. Have you just read my message?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so bear with me while I do my bit of adjusting. So right now, we're moving on to our next speaker, who is Carole Pyke, joining us from London. Now, I have seen Carole's Facebook posts, which led me to reach out to Carole to see if she would speak on this platform and share her amazing journey. So, who is Carole Pyke? Well, she is a 2-time stroke survivor, living with only 4 years of conscious memory and a range of other invisible disabilities. Instead of allowing these challenges to define her, she has transformed her life into a source of inspiration and motivation for others, and I can wholeheartedly agree with that. She continues to make a positive difference in the world, demonstrating that even in the face of adversity, one can find strength and purpose and leave a lasting sparkle. I couldn't resist that, Carole. So, Carole, let me get rid of my spotlight and turn the floor over to you.
Well, I am the most sophisticated 4-year-old you're ever going to meet. Quite literally. On the 27th of February 2019, I was admitted to hospital with a bleed on the brain, a stroke. Had things been marginally different, the date on my death certificate would have been the 28th of February 2019. But it wasn't. And whilst it is that I wasn't sure about what was going on or anything, I decided the fact that I was still alive had to be for a reason. And in that place, I decided that I was here to shine a light in the darkness for others. I'm not sure that I actually understood what it was I meant by that, but that was what it was that it felt. And I believe in God. And I didn't actually know how it was that I believed in God, because nobody told me, but I just had this whole feeling that he was real. And even when I questioned myself, how do you know this? I thought, I don't know, but I just feel it. And so that was where it was that I was starting from. And just to prove how different I think, when it was that I was blue lighted from one hospital to another, and I saw the doctor, and I was on a stroke ward, and I saw lots of stroke doctors, I asked the doctors why, because it didn't seem to make sense to me. And the doctor said, Carole, the bleed on the brain is a stroke. And I thought, I'm sure I know something about this. And the doctor left me, and I asked Google. And when the doctor came back, I said, with a beaming smile, whilst in pain with a bleed on the brain, I'm in the top set. I'm in the top percentile, because only 15% of all strokes are bleeds. Wow. And he just looked at me and said, Carole, nobody thinks like that, which I think quite literally sums me up. And what I want to do now is to talk to you about life. I love me an acronym. And so life is an acronym. And L stands for love. And the most powerful force in the universe is love. And I'm convinced that we would transform the world if we just loved more. Because kindness is a language of love. And if we quite literally loved ourselves, because I think that there is so much disconnect because we don't love ourselves. So how can we possibly love other people? So we start with loving ourselves so that we are self-full, not selfish, not that selfish kind of love, but the love that says, do you know what? I'm okay as I am. That is, including the flabby bits, that all of it is okay on my road to becoming who it is I'm becoming. Because I don't believe that we ever become. We're always on the road to becoming. But if we started from that whole premise of love, that would be a game changer for us. So that's my L in life. And I is about identity. That I believe that the foundation of success is about knowing who you are, you knowing it, not what other people say about you, not what happened whenever it was that it happened, but you having that identity right now. And what was interesting for me is in hospital, I had no idea who I was. The first time I looked in the mirror, or remember looking in the mirror, I was in the bathroom with a nurse. And the only reason I knew it was me is because the nurse was white. I recognized the features, but I had no idea who she was. And for a while I did refer to her, and I know I'm doing it again, in the third person. It was just kind of like she kept showing up. Every time I showed up, she was there. Okay. And I decided that she was my ride or die chick, which I didn't know what that meant. So I had to go and look it up, Google again. But she was just always there with me. So I then worked out, oh, okay, girl, it is you. So it will always be you. But it's that whole thing about you understanding who you are, warts and all. There's a word I came across called flawsome. And my definition of flawsome is awesome with flavor. Because I believe that we are all awesome. We've just got different flavors. And you need to know and understand yours. And whatever the things that are perhaps quirky or different, actually own them, because that makes up your superpower. Because I am neurodivergent and proud. Because it is not an impairment, it is a superpower. Because I think differently. And we spend so much time trying to find a way for us to fit in. And I remember when I first came out of hospital, just being in lots of rooms, because we talk about limiting beliefs, we talk about imposter syndrome, we talk about all of those things that we've heard about earlier, and we talk about fears. I quite literally have no frame of reference for fear, worry, anxiety, regret, limiting beliefs, or any of the syndromes, because it is learnt behavior and it is based on the past. So I've got nothing to bring from the past into here. This is just me here now. And I quite literally live in the now. And I'm realizing that we've been taught to tell time incorrectly, because the only time that ever exists, ever, is now. When yesterday was here, it was now. When tomorrow comes, it will be now. And the future begins now. And if we started to look at time differently, that will help us to navigate our way from where we've been on the road to where it is that we're going. Because now is actually at the juxtaposition of where we've been and where we're going. So it's really an important place so that we can keep going. And I've discovered along the way that so much more is part of my DNA as opposed to something I do. So I don't wear masks. In fact, I don't even wear makeup. I smile. I smile all the time. I've got pictures of me smiling with oxygen in my nose. Quite literally, it is part of my DNA. And I think that whole element of identity is we need to find out what is part of our DNA and what it is that we do. Because being and doing are two different things. And it's that whole understanding. And that when it is that you know who you are, you do less of the comparison. Comparisons are important because we wouldn't know that it was daytime if we didn't compare it to nighttime. So it's got a role to play. But when we use that as being our compass, is where it is that we then get confused. I've got a concept called sparkle, which is all about knowing who you are, understanding the value you bring to the table, and then showing up unapologetically on purpose. And when you sparkle, you aren't worried about what somebody else is doing, how they are doing it, whether they're in front of you or what have you, because you know that this is me and this is my value add, and I'm working on that. And my whole kind of passion and heart is to help every woman every woman, but essentially leaders and entrepreneurs to recognize the value of who it is that they are and look at how that they can use that to navigate their way forward and serve the people that they are here to serve in a greater way. But it all starts with identity. It's not what people say, it's what you say. Because the only voice that you hear the most is your own. And if you're not saying what is it you need to hear, then you need to change the narrative, change the story, because the past informs the present, because I can only show up this way because of what it is I've done to the past to this point, but the past will never take us forward. I mean, okay, so I've done it in a dramatic way. The past can't take me forward because I don't know what it is. But in real terms, the past can never take you forward. Only you can take you forward, because your tomorrow is based on the choices and the decisions that you make today, not what it was that you made 10 years ago. That obviously has an impact, but actually you can change everything right now based on the decision that you make. So identity is key for me. And then F, for me, it is all about faith, because I wouldn't still be here. I'd have given up somewhere along this journey if I didn't have the faith that actually this isn't it. This is part of my story, but it isn't it. And I've got faith in God, and you may not. But that whole kind of faith that actually there is more to you, your life, than you've currently settled for. Not experiencing, settled for. Because so much of the stuff is that we've settled. Because now I could be sitting in a corner somewhere talking about how bad this stuff is. And there's so much of it. I could be sitting in a corner like crying because, I've got reasons to. But do you realize that a reason is a well-crafted excuse? That we're actually saying, oh yeah, I'm not able to do that. That's not possible because I can't. I've tried and it doesn't work. And I've had 2 strokes, so I'm never going to be able to do that. I've got brain damage. Yeah, okay. It's a choice that we make. We have a choice because we believe in something, whether it is a higher being or whether it is in our mistakes and in our failures or impossibilities. We believe in something. If that belief system isn't moving you forward, then maybe you need to check what it is that you're believing in. Just a thought. And then E. E is about experiences. So I don't have memories, so I have to intentionally create new ones. And when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, actually, we all should be intentionally creating memories so that every day is a new adventure, because we have quite literally never been here before. This day has never happened before. So for all of us, it's new. It's a new experience. It's a new opportunity. And I'm of the belief that the moment you open your eyes, the door to possibility is flung wide open. And whilst it is that you are still breathing, everything is still possible. You may not be able to do it the way that you used to do it. You would like to do it. The other people are doing it, but it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you have to find a way. And that there are times where you kind of look at things, like there are lots of things when I think, okay, Carole, how are we going to do this now? So rather than actually, I can't do this, or this is, it's impossible, the question should be, how can I make it happen? And that whole element that when it is that we ask ourselves questions like that, we then start to look for ways to make it happen. I think that we're actually all intrepid explorers and life's one big adventure. Whoever said that life was easy? It's not easy at any point, because Every time it is that you are growing and going to another level, there are a whole new set of challenges that you didn't have before that you now have to address in order to keep moving forward. So at never any point is it, oh, this is a piece of cake. And if it is a piece of cake, then you need to be asking yourself why, because you're not doing anything. Because the moment it is that you set your intention, that you have a goal, you have a vision, you have a dream that you're working towards, there will be challenges. And so if there aren't any, it's because you haven't set yourself a goal. You're not working towards anything. You're just, oh yeah, going with the flow. That's what it is that we do. We have to just go with the flow. But that whole element of life, that there are so many of us that are alive, but we're not living. That we've taken being alive and having a life as breathing, but it's so much more than that. It is about the influence and impact that you make in your world. We think of influencers, oh yeah, those people on Instagram that have got millions of followers, they're influencers. No, each and every one of us is an influencer somewhere in our lives, whether we are influencing one person or millions of people and all of the elements in between. And the other thing that I've discovered on this journey is that you do not know who is watching you. And if every day that you were striving to be the best version of you, it doesn't matter who's watching you, that they're going to get exactly the same person in terms of that core essence of you. Because I firmly believe, irrespective of what happens in life, that core inner diamond still exists. My first booking to speak was in 2019. I was in a wheelchair in pajamas on a stroke ward. A group of women came in for a reading group for stroke survivors. We did a roundtable read, and then we had a free-flow conversation. And one of the women said, when you come out of hospital, I want you to speak to my group. And I thought that was interesting because she'd never met me before. So she knew nothing of my history, and she didn't know whether or not I could speak to an audience. And to be honest, neither did I. So the only thing that she could have connected with was me. That core of me, because I was still trying to find out the rest of it. And if I then say to you, her audience were white, middle-class men, there was nothing about that scenario that said, do you know what? Carole would be a perfect fit. But that inner me was who she connected with. And I believe that in all of us, there is that diamond that has been kind of lost sometimes under the layers of life, under the layers of kind of failures, mistakes, trauma, all of those things. And we think that because we can't see it, it doesn't exist. But I want to remind everybody that it is there and it's waiting for you to peel back the layers, give it a little polish so that it can sparkle. Yes. That's it. Yes. So I'm on the mission to make the world a bright place.
Oh my goodness, Carole. That was, oh my goodness, phenomenal. There will be questions at the end. So I'm going to move us quickly on so that we have good time for questions. Right. Thank you, Carole. Thank you for saying yes. All right. Okay, and now it gives me greatest of pleasure to introduce you to our last speaker of this evening. Before we open up, I hasten to add, before we open up the floor for Q&A, because we must have our questions and answers. So, introduction to Professor Laura Sarant, OBE, who joins us from Retford in the UK. And Laura will put all her details in the chat, like Carole. Hopefully you've put yours in there as well. So, Professor Laura Sarant, OBE, works with individuals and organizations to help them meet their personal aspirations, corporate and social responsibilities of optimizing inclusive practice to improve their business impact, client experiences, and deliver their best of themselves. Author of over 100 articles, including edited books. She is one of the BBC expert women and was named as the 8th most influential Black person in Britain by the Powerlist UK, and was awarded an OBE in the 2018 Queen's Birthday Honours List. And Laura, I am so privileged that you said yes to speaking on this platform. So I am going to remove myself from the spotlight and the floor will be all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carole, for the invitation. Although I have to say, if I knew I was going to go after the other Carole that's just been, I probably would have turned it down because that was absolutely fabulous. So thank you all for kind of taking time and gifting us your time this evening. Because the one thing that we can't get back is time. You know, I think it's really interesting how we've heard from Carole that actually time is a notion, you know, behind her, but it's behind us all in some ways. We have, as human beings, we have about somewhere between 60 and 90,000 thoughts a day. And, you know, so actually, you know, every day, Carole, you get another 60 or 90 thoughts. The sad bit is, of course, that about 90% of the things we think about today, we thought about yesterday. And that's always a bit shocking, actually, when you think about it. So Carole, when you invited me to speak today, I kind of had a little think about, okay, the whole idea of empowering women and actually what we can add and what we can share in this space that will help us to empower each other is a bit of a thorny issue. I kind of think to myself as I now approach my 60th year in a couple of months, I think, oh, what is it I'm going to talk about in my 40 odd years that we got? And I actually was reminded of a interview that I did as part of one of my podcasts. I have a podcast series called Speaking for Ourselves, and which actually links into quite a few things that my fellow speakers today have talked about. The importance of being yourself, the importance of being heard, and the importance of telling your own story and telling your inner story and also listening to your inner self. Carole Pyke's talked about our inner jewel, our inner sparkle. Georgia has talked about having actually, you know, the ability to swerve the confidence sapping games that people play with us. And Christian talked about the importance of sometimes just getting yourself through the roller coaster of life. And these are all the stories that we have. And those stories, the stories of us and who we really are, our identities, as Carole talks about, is actually the essence of us. So empowering women for me is about holding on and empowering the essence of us. And a friend of mine who I was interviewing, a colleague that I've known for a long time on my podcast, he actually talked about the fact that he was seen now as he like me was, had got a PhD, he'd done a doctorate, he'd got all the bits of papers and the paraphernalia that comes with a certain pathway in life. And he was saying that when people speak to him, they say to him, oh, you're looking so good. It's so easy for you. Look, you know, how fabulously you've done. And I remember people saying that to me. And to some extent, one of the hardest questions people ask me is exactly what the question that Carole asked me when she said, come on here and talk about your story. Share with us how you got where you are. What was the plan? How did you build this career? How did you get an OBE? How did you get a professorship? How did you do all this? And they almost talk about it as if it is a superpower. We talked about superpowers before, and Carole Pyke, I know, interestingly, I agree with you, our superpower does not sit with any external bells and whistles. It sits within us. I am the prize. As you are the prize, we are the prize. And the phrase that sticks with me from interviewing on the podcast was, you see the glory, but you don't know the story. And it's as if we absolutely have, people feel by some way we've arrived in this place. I am the eldest daughter in a family of 7. And I am the middle child. So I have 3 brothers before me, and I have 3 sisters after me. So I'm the eldest girl. My family are from Dominica, a very small, not the Republic, the Commonwealth of Dominica, a very small island in the Caribbean. Now, the unique thing about being Dominican is that it's a matriarchal society. It's one of the few Caribbean islands, one of the few places in the world, actually, that had one of the first female prime ministers, Dame Eugenia Charles, who was there for over 25 years. So even though I'm the middle child, I was brought up to be the one in charge, the one who was responsible. My job was to make sure that everybody else, including my older brothers and my father, did what they were supposed to do. Now, luckily for me, I'm an extrovert. If you know you're into all the Myers-Briggs stuff, I am a classic ENFJ. Born to lead, but born to talk at least. And the thing about that is that when people say to me, how did you get where you were going? How did you make this career? How did you get all these things? I can honestly say to you, there was no plan. I didn't have a plan. But what I did have was that thing inside me that says, I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to do something. I also was a bit of a risk taker. So actually, you know, my mother used to say I was a bit of a butterfly chaser, and that's probably why I got a butterfly in my logo. You know, like a butterfly flitting from flower to flower. Oh, that looks interesting over there. Oh, well, have a go at one of those. What I didn't have was the fear. And that made me smile, Carole, when you talked about I don't have those things. I have them, but I just kind of ignore them. You know, so they are in me: fear, confidence, thinking about it. What if I make a fool of myself? But here I am at 59 years and 10 months, and I've learned to ride the roller coaster. And that's probably how I ended up where I am. But one of the interesting things is that I wasn't always like this. I was like that at the beginning, when I think about myself as a young child and being in charge, inverted commas, and I'm like that now. But there was a period in the middle where I wasn't like that. It's 2007, and that's the year, in fact, it's March 2007, and that was when I got my first professorship. I was working as a researcher and lecturer at the University of Wolverhampton, so Carole, at your side there. And I actually applied for a joke, well, not for a joke, really, just to see how far away I was from being a professor. I applied for a post at Lincoln University. They advertised for a professor of nursing. I was in the nursing and health department. I trained as a nurse, that's where it was. And I applied for this job just so that I could get a sense check of how far away I was from the holy grail of professorship, which in a university is like where as a researcher you want to head to. And then lo and behold, blow me down, I got the job. And I remember driving home from the interview, and I was on the bypass going to the motorway to go home. And they phoned me, and I pulled over, and they said, "Is that Laura?" Yes, I'm Laura. This is so-and-so from the chair of the interview panel. Okay, yeah. We'd like to offer you the job. Pardon? We'd like to offer you the job. Okay. I don't know what to say. And the woman on the other end of the phone said, well, most people say yes. Oh yeah, I want, yeah, oh yeah, of course I'll have it. Thank you, we'll be in touch. I set off to the motorway again. I got 50 yards down the road and I pulled over. This was in the glory days when we had a hard shoulder wherever we went. I pulled over to the side and I literally sat there and said to myself, how on earth have I got to be a professor? How has that happened? How has that happened? Because you see, if you roll back from 2007, you roll back to when I did my O-level choices at the age of 14 in school. When I did my O-level choices in 1978, and the teacher said to me, what do you want to be? I said, well, I'd like to travel and I really like reading. And the answer I was given was, well, we think you'd be really good as a driver of a mobile library. And I said, oh, I think I want to go to university. And they said, oh, you're from the poor end of town, literally to my face. But don't you live in that part of town? Yes. Has anyone in your family ever been to university? No. What's the highest qualification your parents had? Well, my father left school at 13 because although he passed the equivalency of the 11 plus to go to the grammar school, his mother was a single parent and she couldn't afford to pay for him to go. So he had to go to work. And my mother left school at the age of 10 because she was the eldest girl in a family of 9. And unfortunately, her father died, so she had to leave school to work in the family bakery. And you think you're going to university? Why not? So the story of the plan, there was no plan. I took the chances as they came. But what was inside me actually told me I was here for a purpose. But do you know what? If we go to 2007, I've come off the motorway. I've now started my new job as a professor. I got to where I wanted to be. And the first day, as part of the big directors, I went to the meeting, the first professorial meeting. And you probably can't see very much because it's a thing, but I like colour. I learned long ago that as often the only black woman in the room, I was never going to blend. And if you can't blend, you may as well clash. So I always wore colour because I like it. I walked into that room and everybody had suits. Women and men all had suits. And here was me in my glorious Technicolor self. And I went in there, and for the whole of that 3-hour meeting, I didn't speak. I didn't speak. The person who'd been brought up to be in charge, who spoke out, who was a classic ENFJ, which means we like the limelight, I did not say a word. I'd lost my voice. Because I sat there and realized I'm one of these professors, but I don't look or sound or even dress like anybody here. How am I possibly going to say anything and be taken seriously? And every meeting I went to for the next 3 meetings, I said nothing. I went from blazing a trail and going in there, all guns blazing, getting the job, despite the fact I didn't think I'd get it. And all the things that made me me, all the things, Carole, that made me sparkle, my light was dimmed because I put too much effort doing exactly what Georgia says we do, of absorbing all those confidence sapping, soul sapping, emotional bandits that say professors look like this, leaders look like this, they dress in this way, they speak in this way. English isn't even my first language, because one of the things you may or may not know is Dominica is actually historically part of the French-speaking Caribbean. So I constantly, even now, go through where our words will come and I can only think of the French word, and I have to kind of translate, shift, and deliver it in a different language. I was silent or silenced by the experience. But you know what? I had very, very good giants. Those people who sometimes encourage, sometimes frustrate, and sometimes push us kicking and screaming to remember who we are. And one of these giants that I had, wonderful woman, you may have heard of her if you're in the UK, Dame Professor Elizabeth Anyonwu. And she said to me, she phoned me up and said, how's the job going? And I said, I can't talk in that meeting. They were all doing, I don't know what, I haven't even got the right clothes. I said, I even went, and this is the thing I did do, I went out and bought a suit. Grey suit, dark grey, that was like a dress suit. And I thought, right, I'll be all right now. I walked into the next meeting and I still could not speak because I didn't feel like me. The skirt dug into my waist. The shoulder pads were too tight. I couldn't relax. I'd not got my big long earrings in. I'd got these little studs and things. I was thinking, who, just as Carole said, you looked at the picture of yourself and thought, who is that? I looked and I thought, who the hell's that? That's not me. Who's this person? I could not speak. And Elizabeth Anyonwu said to me, you put your clothes on and you go in there as you. Being you is what got you into that space. Being you is what got you the job. Being you is what made you stand out from the crowd. Being you is exactly why they appointed you. So the next week, I put on my glorious clothes. I put my big earrings on. The lipstick was redder than red. And I went in there. And I spoke and I talked and I reflected and I commented and I challenged. And when I came out of the room, the chair of the committee, who had been on my appointment committee, a guy in a grey suit, he said to me outside the room, welcome back. Because what we learn is, exactly as Carole said, as George has talked about, and actually as Kusha said before, we are our superpower. That when we leave ourselves behind, when we don't speak for ourselves, we have a voice, whether we speak on paper, as Georgia says, whether we speak out, whether we find the words, as Carole said, we all have a voice and we all have stories to tell. But if we don't use our voices and tell our own stories, other people will speak for us. And at best, they'll mistell our stories. But at worst, they will render us silent. And that's why I call my podcast Speaking for Ourselves. And that's why I work and I coach women, particularly those in leadership or business, who actually have blazed a trail to get there. They might be first of their name. They might be the only one of their name. They might be, as Kusha was, someone who life happened to and meant that they didn't go through the way that they wanted to. Or as Carole says, something happens and changes. And then what happens is when they hit that point, they start playing tame. They start being less than they are. And what I do with them is help them through my 42 years of learning to ride the roller coaster, to learn them to refine themselves. So what have I learned in my 42 years? And what do I think is important to leave you with today? I think there are 4 things I want to say. The first is, be human. Allow yourself the grace that you allow other people. Make peace with being perfectly imperfect as the human being that you are. The second thing is, don't get it twisted. Don't get bamboozled by data which says the possibility that you may fail, by information that says professors don't look like you, or this is not the place that you're supposed to be. Or as Carole said, you know, people, 15% of people have a bleed on the brain. Yes. And the rest of the story that says, and they all look like this, that's not the case. Every data point does tell a story of people, but every data point, statistics don't know you. The third thing, and it links to the whole idea of being able to allow yourself the grace to make mistakes. As I said earlier, it's up and down on the way up. And as Lisa Nichols, who I love as a speaker, says much more eloquently than me, we only fail forwards. Do you know, and I tell you this as a nurse, there are very, very few conditions that human beings suffer that actually end up with you falling forwards. You either fall down or you fall backwards. And in life, there are very few things that we fail at that stop us moving forward. And the final thing that I'll say to you is the battle to be yourself, the phenomenal power you have to sparkle, as Carole says, to shine and to find your voice, as Georgia says. It's based on the mind. Where the mind leads, the body follows. Remember those 90,000 thoughts we have a day? Make sure some of them are about you and are for you. That's it. You're doing it again, Carole.
Laura, what's this? Mic drop.
Well, I had to do something after I followed Carole, didn't I? So...
Right. I am just going to put us back in gallery view. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What an amazing evening. Goodness. The value that you've all shared, that we've all benefited from, and free. This is amazing. And firstly, okay, Kusha had to leave us, our very first speaker, because it was 11:30 when she joined us, 11:30 p.m. from India. So she spoke, did some Q&As and then left. So now I just want to say thank you to our other speakers before I open up the floor for questions. So Professor Laura Sarand, OBE, we've just heard from. Carole Pyke, the Sparkle Navigator, we heard from. And Georgia Varga, amazing book coach, or yes. Oh my, I'm just so moved I can't speak. So the floor is now open. Speaker to speaker, audience to speaker, I give the floor over to you. You have the first dibs.
I would like to come in and just to say how much I appreciate the content that we women have to share with each other. All of us, you know, we've got threads. we've got lots in common. You know, our stories, the things that we've been through, the things that we've elevated from, the things that we've, you know, the resilience and the strength that we've had from the different backgrounds that we come from. And actually, I've learned a lot about how sharing your background can really benefit others, and I'm going to do that more. So thank you, ladies, for doing that. Yeah. I tend to be a bit private about those things, so thank you for that. And to Carole E, not Carole P, Carole E. Carole E, you have some talent, girl, bringing in such a fine blend of amazing women. I mean, we're like, you know, just praising each other for this fantastic content, and it just shows what, you know, what strength we have to come through all the things that we've experienced. And these stories have to get out there, writing, speaking, showing, however you do it. I mean, dance it if you can, whatever way you like to do it. Just, it's so important. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. I really benefit so much from listening to you. I've got 1,000 questions. I don't know which one to ask, so I'll let somebody else do that.
Oh, I'm just looking to see if there are any questions in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Laurie. That's very true. You know, one of the stories I write about in my book, just 3 lines, is that I left my family home when I was 15 years old, just before I was 15 years old, and I never went back. I was tough. But I never went to prison. I never went to any institution. I never got held up.
You're a survivor.
That's a good one, huh?
You were a survivor.
Can I just ask a question to Laura?
Yes, of course.
Hello, Laura. You know, when you said your voice back, you lost your voice, didn't you?
Yes.
And then also when you went and you couldn't dress up in your suit, and that you didn't feel comfortable, and then you put your own suit on, your lipstick on. I think that was lovely. I think we all need to think like that. We're not uniform.
Yeah.
No.
You know? So, you know, like, I mean, sometimes you think, oh, am I wearing the right clothes for this? But you shouldn't have to worry about it as long as you're happy within yourself wearing it, you know. And I like that about you, because you went in as you.
Exactly.
You know,
I think it's very easy for us sometimes to think that, you know, once, you know, we're so intent on reaching a particular goal or getting to a particular place that all our efforts goes to getting there. And then it's easy for us to lose the fact that it's the very uniqueness of us that got us there. Yeah. So when we then kind of water that down when we get there, we're not even, you know, we're not even the person they appointed or the person they gave the opportunity to. Or, for example, even in, you know, it doesn't just relate to work, it can also relate to relationships, in that, you know, we're not even the person that they, you know, that they booked in for. You know, it's like, you know, you got together because you're excited and that you're chatting, whatever, and that you know, you're risk taker and that you're interested in what's going on in the world. And then, you know, as Georgia said earlier, and then what happens? You change to somebody who's more interested in washing and ironing, you know, or that becomes a thing. So it's, you know, that's not what I bargained for. This isn't what I came in here for.
Yeah. I think you're all lovely speakers tonight, and Carole, well done, Carole, as always.
Thank you.
Our Carole is brilliant, honestly. I must say, she's lovely. She's got a heart of gold.
Oh.
And all the speakers today, they're really brilliant, honestly. I really enjoyed it. Learned a lot today.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, each one.
Thank you, Naresh. Thank you for your continued support for Kaushalya UK.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's very close to my heart. Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? What action are you going to take as a result of what it is that you've heard? You don't have to. What
for me?
Am I still on? No.
No, I can hear. We can hear.
Yeah. What actions are you going to take as a result of what you've heard? So you don't have to answer it, but it's just to remind you that it's about taking action and not just then it's some nice things that you heard.
Yeah, that's true.
Laura, I have to say that you put on red lipstick. That's brilliant.
Really nice.
Hey, that's awesome.
I used to wear red lipstick, Laura, but I've gone down to pink now as I'm getting older. I don't know why.
You know what? There's a really, really lovely, famous old poem that I'm aiming to live up to, and it's called "When I'm old, I shall wear purple."
Yeah.
And if you've never looked at it, it's absolutely when I'm old, I shall wear purple with a red hat and a feather that doesn't go.
Yeah.
Spend all my money on butter and say spend all my money on shoes and say we have no money for butter. That's what I'm doing. I'm just to share that I became a granny 9 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
And my daughter said to me when she told me she was pregnant, she said, "Oh, guess what, Mum? You're going to become that foxy granny." So I'm working on being a grandma. That's me now.
Well, Laura, I'm a grandma. I've got 4 grandchildren. And my
you need to be a grandma then.
Well, I'm a glamorous mom, grandma.
Get the red lipstick out.
Yeah.
Oldest one is 16, my granddaughter.
Oh.
And I had 4 of them today, and it was a pleasure, honestly. They do make me tired. That's why I was late. I was saying bye to them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You enjoy your grandchildren.
I will. It's a blessing. It's a blessing,
Yes,
and
it is.
it's another life. It's another life stage, isn't it? It's another life stage.
Yeah.
It's like Carole Pyke said, God's within us and God gives us. If we have faith and believe in him, he's the one who looks after us. That's what I say.
Breath of life.
Yeah.
Breath of life, yes.
Yeah.
Remind you, you've still got to do the work. What was
Absolutely.
interesting, Laura, when you were talking about the fact that when it was you got the job and then you didn't feel almost like you didn't feel that you fitted in, and then you kind of bought the suit so that you could fit in. And what was really interesting that somebody pointed out to me, because when I was going into lots of different rooms and I was so different from everybody in the room and I didn't want to be so different, and someone said to me, when you say that you wanted to fit in, you're saying you want to be like everybody else. And I think that that's possibly what it is, that the challenge that we all have is that whether consciously or consciously, that actually if I can be more like you, then actually I wouldn't stand out so much.
Yeah.
And then, which kind of then means that we're no longer wanting to be ourselves, because being ourselves means that we don't fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think often, and particularly women more so, we mistakenly think that there is a way to be in terms of to be successful, whether that's in business, in personal life, in whatever. And what's even more sad is that often women between women themselves often kind of hold each other to ransom. I mean, there is no gauntlet more frightening than the school gate posse. When you're a working mother, there is no gauntlet that you have to run that's more frightening than being a school gate mother who, past that, it's almost like Interpol, to get past them, to drop your child off, to get back in your car, to get to work, to get to things, because you're having to do this to put food and to do all these things. And you're always you're feeling like you're always a day late and $1 short every time. But actually, that's, because you're trying not to be you. So you're trying to walk really slow, drop your children off really slowly to make it look like you're not rushing, making sure you stop to chat. And then the minute you're out of sight, you're running like whatever it is to catch up, because we think there's one way to be.
Yeah.
And, when I coach women who are going through this kind of issue, and I have this program of work that I do with them called Going from Tame to Trailblazer. And the first thing we do is go through work about the importance of being you. Be you.
Seriously. I came into my own. Sorry, Carole. I came into my own when I took voluntary redundancy back in 2016. That's when my hair became an afro.
Yeah.
I felt free. I felt free. And as I've aged, I'm the oldest. I think I'm the oldest one on here. No?
You know, you're beautiful.
I'm going to tell you girls, I'm 71 years old.
There you go.
No, I'm definitely not the
I'm
oldest.
71
Georgia,
years old.
I am heading that way. I'll be 68 in December. But
Yeah, you're
Georgia, you're
amazing.
amazing.
There you see,
Amazing.
Carol, you've made that assumption, and you see.
Georgia, you look lovely at your
Yeah,
age.
I
You're
would
so
not have put you
beautiful.
at that age, Georgia.
Oh, I was
Beautiful.
sorry. I'm 60.
Wow.
Also, I'm the youngest.
Amazing. Amazing. You're amazing.
Well, I'm
Yeah, it's
65.
so rare for me
You're
to be
all
the
telling your
youngest in a
age.
room.
I said you're all telling your ages. I'm 65.
We're all
I don't
big
feel
girls.
old. Age is
We're
just
all
a
big
state of
girls.
mind.
Well, actually, I'm 4. So actually,
We're not old. We just,
4.
we're okay.
Say again, Carol. Sorry.
No, I said I'm only 4.
Oh, yes, yes,
Oh,
yes,
yes.
yes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Caroline, did you have any questions for our speakers? If you're still with us.
Walking in the woods.
Yes, probably multitasking,
Yeah.
multiplexing. Oh my goodness. Laura, you talked about self-limiting, other people's self-limiting beliefs, your tutors.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. When my son was at school, his teachers told him he'll never get to university, and he was determined to prove them wrong. So he graduated in computer forensics, and yeah, but he could have gone the other way if his character was different. He
Yes.
could have just listened to what they say, and his spirit would have been broken. We have such an important role to play in encouraging people to be, as Carol said, your superpower is in you. Don't
Yes.
listen to anybody else. So yeah.
Wow.
I could have been driving the mobile library.
Yeah.
Travel, all the books I could read.
The biggest joke ever. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And
wow, been inspirational just listening to everyone. It's been quite
hey,
a
Caroline. Mhm.
feel like I've been spoilt with very influential, inspiring and intelligent ladies. I wanted to just ask really, if there was to say one quote from each of you, what would you tell me as your one affirmation
Takeaway.
I can take away, you would say is a very positive affirmation or kind of a phrase that I should take away from each of you, if you don't mind?
I don't mind starting. I think, Caroline, I would say one of the points that I said at the end, gift yourself the grace to accept that you are perfectly imperfect.
Perfectly. Thank you so much.
I'd say to you that life is the greatest gift that you've been given. What you do with it is your thank you card.
Love that. Yeah.
Thank you, Carol.
Mine is that your voice and your pen are your two most powerful tools for communication, and it's profitable.
Yeah. Awesome.
Go make some money, girls. Live the life you want to live.
Oh my
I am
goodness.
so hungry. I have to go off and eat.
Okay.
10 o'clock here for me. So
Yes,
Thank you, Carol.
you're an hour ahead of UK. You're an hour ahead of UK. Yeah.
yes, that's right. Yeah, and it's very warm still. So I'm going to jump in the
It's
pool.
nice day here as well in England, in UK, isn't it? It's been lovely here in UK as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Georgia, if you jump off while I'm speaking, thank you so much. Thank you. We have been blessed.
Learned so much tonight.
Oh,
let's continue sharing and caring.
Yes, when the recording is available, when the recording is available, I will message you and let you know.
Perfect.
Bye.
Yeah. Carole, I can't believe, you shared when you were in a wheelchair, you're in a circle.
Yeah.
And you were chosen to be a speaker.
Yeah.
You were the odd one out. She hadn't heard you speak, but she recognized something in you.
Mm.
That was truly amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it felt really straight. One of those things you're thinking like, okay, all right then. And my whole kind of thing is that there are times where we don't know the next step, or it's an environment that we're uncertain of. Until you go into it, you're actually not going to know whether you can or you can't.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I've never been there, or things like, I love the fact that Laura went for a job, like a professor job, but that kind of whole thing of actually, you don't know, and not knowing isn't a bad thing. Yeah. It's actually that whole thing like, oh, I don't know, let me find out. And I think that so much of the world we've been framed. So you've been conditioned to think in a particular way. Because even in terms of those moments, I remember somewhere on this journey, I'd sat in my car and I was in tears, and I was saying, well, like, what's the point? And if I didn't get up tomorrow, would anybody notice? Would anybody care? And when we ask questions like that, we think that it's not a question, it's just a statement that we've made. But it's actually a question. And I said, God said to me, yeah, great question. So, Carole, what difference would it make? What's the point? And it's that whole thing that when we find the things that are questioning us, like whether or not I can do this or not, actually answer the question. Don't take it as mean, oh, because we've asked the question, it's a done deal. It just means that I can't do it. No, that's a question I think is about finding out whether or not you're serious.
Yeah.
Because it's challenging you to see whether or not is your why strong enough. Do you actually really want this? And if so, find a way.
Yeah.
The question always has to be how. Because one of the things I know for sure is that there is always another way.
Yeah.
I wanted to play tennis. And I used to play tennis as a child because I've got pictures as part of the Kent coaching squad, so real proper tennis. And I wanted to play tennis, but mobility is a challenge for me, so I can't do that. But then I thought, hold on a minute, I've seen wheelchair tennis. Okay, I'm going to play wheelchair tennis. Now, I've never been in a wheelchair in my life, so I have no idea how to use a wheelchair, but I found a club that provides wheelchairs, and so therefore I was in a wheelchair playing tennis.
Oh, goodness.
I decided there had to be a way.
Yeah.
And so Naresh, Carole, Caroline, Laura, Laura, you already know, I don't even have to say anything to you. That's the whole thing. If there's something you want to do, why can't you do it?
Yeah.
Thing?
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. You need to check to see whether or not you've got a pulse. If you've got a pulse,
yeah. This is why I listen to all this, because it's so inspiring. All this, all these lovely ladies, and Kaushalya UK has brought on Carole. Honestly, I just can't get enough of them. It's lovely.
The key that you look at how it is that you translate that into the language that you understand that speaks to you.
I had a minor stroke as well, 2021, and so I was just about getting better, and then last November I had cancer, and so I'm still struggling. But I'm like Carole knows, I'm a very positive person.
Yeah,
and so
very talented, positive person.
Tell you about those kind of illnesses or kind of challenges. Do you know what they actually are? They just tell you where your starting point is and the things that you need to navigate in order to get where it is you're going.
Yeah.
I'm only here because I've got a belief, like Carole, what you said. I mean, I believe in God, and they gave me 3 months to tell you the truth.
Wow.
And I'm still here.
They don't know.
Maybe I'm
Like I
still here to
said,
tell
statistics
stories.
don't know you.
Know you.
And actually, the tone in which it needs to be said is, statistics don't know me.
Yeah.
You're just telling me what's possible, but it's not, it's probable. But therefore, I mean, it's equally not, the other side also happens.
Yeah.
There are two sides to every single statistic.
Yeah. I haven't actually, all these programs I've been watching, listening to, I've never actually said that before, have I, Carole?
No.
About my condition. It's the first time I've actually said something. So my voice
I feel blessed that we have created a space where you
honestly,
can
I felt
tell your
like
story.
Today. I did. Yeah. Normally keep it in here all the time, you know.
Yeah.
So
but as I said in the chat, your story might be somebody else's safety net.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And
definitely.
no experience that we've gone through, no matter how devastating, is wasted if we can help somebody else through it.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to. I love to help. I mean, I'm very sort of caring person anyway. Like, you know, too caring sometimes. Don't care enough for myself.
What you have to remember, Naresh, is that in your push to help, don't forget to help yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now. Trying to love myself as well.
I give you a task every day when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror. Ask the girl looking back, how can I serve you today?
Yes.
It's good. Yeah. Yeah.
She needs you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Carole. Thank you, Laura.
I am going to be closing.
I'm so happy I joined in today. Yeah, I am. Thank you.
What I would say is please save the chat. Caroline, Naresh, please save the chat.
How do I do that, Carole?
Are you on a computer?
I'm on my iPad actually.
Yeah.
Have you got the chat? Can you see the chat, Naresh?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Where you go to type a message, there should be next to the smiley face, there's 3 little dots.
Yes.
If you tap that, it will say save chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. And it will save into your folders.
Yeah. That's lovely. That's lovely. Thank you so much.
What can I say? Thank you for saying yes. We have just been so blessed. So very blessed. And Carole, Papa G, and the I can't remember the other two. I know what they mean, but I can't remember.
JCH and Papa G.
JCH and Papa G. Yes. Oh, well, enjoy the rest of your evening.